Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Jones, president of Fidelis Wealth Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning, Fearless Females. We have with us today Vanessa Cardenas. She is the CEO of Understanding Ear. And I was just telling her, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. I am so interested in what she has to say. I think you'll really find this discussion enlightening. So, Vanessa, thank you so much for doing this for us. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's completely my honor. Thank you so much for the invite. We are going to have the most amazing conversation. Oh, I've been looking so forward to this as well.
So the first question I always ask is because I am so interested. I'm a reader. I love reading. What is your favorite book?
My absolute favorite book is The Gift by Edith Eger. 12 lessons for your life.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a Holocaust survivor, and she wrote about her time in the concentration camp from such a beautiful, grateful perspective that no matter the trials and tribulations you go through in your life, there is beauty on the other side. There is an opportunity to have a different perspective, to turn that kaleidoscope just 1 degree and the whole image changes. And it's all about your perspective and how you think of things. And I just found it so empowering for me.
I love that idea. And I think that you can have joy in the journey as well. I'm sure I'm putting that on my list. It's actually, I've got a stack. So it's a little bit lower, but I love that idea of like, there's a joy in the journey, and that you can, like, not only that will you come out the other side whole and intact and happy, but that you can actually, while you're going through it, find those pieces of joy.
Just those moments. And then to make the effort to share it, to share your story. I know that Brené Brown says it so eloquently, but it's about your story. Your story becomes a survival guide for someone else. And this particular book I read when I was going through the betrayal recovery process. And you talked about stacks of books. I had stacks of books specifically related to relationships and betrayal and breaking of trust and forgiveness. And this one book, not necessarily written for betrayal, was instrumental in my betrayal recovery because it offered hope. It offered a perspective that I needed at the time. And now it's my go-to book. Whenever I feel that little apprehension starting to creep in, a little self-doubt, maybe a little self-sabotage, maybe a little imposter syndrome, that's the book I gravitate to. And I read a chapter and I feel empowered. I feel ready to face whatever it is I need to face.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm definitely putting it on my list. Thank you for the suggestion. So, Vanessa, tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get where you are today? Kind of what do you do? Just talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, my journey started a really long time ago. Boy, it's been decades. Yes, I'm showing my age, but I started in a family-owned business. Not my family, but a family-owned business. And the dynamics in a family-owned business are very different from corporate America. You're dealing with a lot of personal and professional issues besides the family dynamics. And that was really fascinating to me because as I went through college, I studied industrial psychology, which is the study of people at work. Well, I had a playground right in front of me because I was involved in a family-owned business. And then I went from that to another family-owned business, but this was more of an S Corp.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the opportunity of working my way up through the ranks, starting as a manager, then a director, then a vice president, and I got into the C-suite. Yes, I was the only non-family member in that C-suite. There were other women there, for which I was very grateful that there were other women, but that came with its own set of challenges. And we'll definitely discuss that as well. But what I also do is, because of a situation that happened in the middle of my career, I'm going to say, I developed my own company in the midst of all of that. Because what had happened for me was my husband of over 2 decades, who I loved madly, deeply, passionately, he said 3 words to me: "I've met someone." And my world completely shattered. And I found myself on my bedroom floor, a mess. I had been, it was so devastating to me, and I couldn't understand why. It was just gut wrenching for me, until I realized that it had been stacked on top of micro betrayals that I had had throughout my entire life. These little things that we almost don't pay attention to, or that others dismiss. For example, in grade school, I was best friends with Mary Jane. I loved Mary Jane. We were peas and carrots. We could do anything together. And one day I walked into class and Mary Jane looked at me with such disgust. "I'm not your friend anymore. I'm friends with Christine." And I could not believe how I felt at that moment in time. And I went home in tears. And my mother, yes, my mother, who was a terrified teenager when she had me, wasn't equipped to answer that as best she could. And she dismissed it. "Oh, you'll make other friends." So I thought, okay, I'll make other friends. And I just let that go. But that hurt was always within me. And all throughout my childhood and into my early 20s and into my career, I had those micro betrayals where I shared with a friend, a work colleague, an idea that I had, who then turned around and told the boss. And either the boss loved the idea and suddenly it was their idea, or the boss hated the idea and they pointed the finger. "Oh, it was her idea." Oh, all those little itty bitty betrayals just stacked on top of this monumental betrayal from my husband that completely cracked me open. What did I step into? I stepped into my creativity, something that had been squashed for decades. And I realized, with a lot of hard work and coaching to get through the betrayal recovery process, that I actually have a voice, that I have something to say. And I wrote a book in 6 weeks. I wrote the second book in 8 weeks. I've been writing articles that have been published. I've been on stages sharing my story, empowering others to know that in the darkest moments where you feel shattered and broken and that you just can't go on, that there is light. Whether it starts as a pinhole in the distance where you can't even see it, but you see just a glimmer of light, that it turns into the most beautiful scenery because you have stepped into who you were actually meant to be.
Oh, I love that, Vanessa. I love that thought of who you were actually meant to be. And I've seen that in my clients as they've come through this betrayal process that you're talking about. Like they turn into just an unrecognizable version of who they were. And I am like, in my heart of hearts, I am like, this is always who you were meant to be. You needed a little, you had to go through the pain to get there. I love that. Thank you.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't wish betrayal on anyone. Absolutely not. It's the most devastating thing that you will go through, without a doubt. It's in the top 3, without a doubt. But know this. First off, you're definitely not alone. Regrettably, you are not alone in your betrayal. It regrettably happens quite often. And we're not even just talking about intimate partner betrayal. We're also talking about betrayal at work, between business partners, between colleagues, between bosses and their team members. Betrayal happens everywhere. We just have to know what we're looking for, what we see. We need to set our boundaries, and we need to know how to respond to what's going on around us, not react. We tend to react out of emotion right away. And sometimes that emotion, while important to go through, isn't quite appropriate at that moment. So we do need to learn how to respond to those situations that present themselves.
Tell me, Vanessa, what is the best investment you've made in yourself? If there's something that you can like look back on your journey and on your career path, and you mentioned you were in the like C-suite, now you're CEO of your own company, but how is there something you can say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that. If I hadn't, I don't think I'd be where I was today.
It ties in to the worst advice I ever got. The worst advice I ever got from a family member who I respected greatly was to work as if you own the business, that it's your business. Well, on the surface, that sounds great. Be a hard worker, treat it as if it's your own. In my particular case, I got lost in this family business. I was there at the crack of dawn. I was the first one there, the last one to leave, because I took that advice so seriously. But there came a moment in time where the best investment I did in myself was to listen to that voice in my head. Not the one that criticizes you, the critical voice. No. This is the one buried deep inside that every once in a while tells you something that's incredibly important. And you have to be ready, and you have to listen to it, and you have to go forward with that. And for me, in my particular case, because I had worked crack of dawn to the wee hours of the evening, sometimes 6, 7 days a week. Again, I was treating it as if it was my own business. My boss at the time had made a comment to me because I had worked up enough courage to ask for a raise. Because I had been the good woman. I would wait for everybody else to get their raises, their annual raises, and I would get my raise and I'd be quiet about it, even though I felt that a raise is indicative of your worth. Worst mistake to make, because your raise is not indicative of your worth. But that was my benchmark. That was my yardstick. And I would get my raise and I would swallow it and take it. Well, I finally worked up enough courage to ask for a raise. And I sat in my boss's office and I laid out all that I had done. It wasn't about me. It was what my contribution to the company.
Mm-hmm.
And he slammed his hand down on the table and he said, Vanessa, I'm not going to pay you a penny more. And right in my head, loud as can be, well, I'm not going to work a minute more. And that was glorious for me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely glorious for me. And that was over a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what that did for me was it cracked me open to know, do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. So when I went through betrayal with my husband and I realized I needed to share my story, I needed to develop my own company. I needed to work hard for my own company as if it is my company, because not for nothing, it was. So all that extra time that I was putting into someone else's business was now being put into mine.
Mm-hmm.
Had he given me the raise that I asked for, I would still be burning the midnight oil from dawn to dusk every single day, because
Mm-hmm.
I would have taken that as validation of my hard work and I would have worked even harder. But no, he said that to me, and this voice wasn't a nasty chick voice in my head. It was an affirmative, well, I'm not going to work a minute more. And that was it. So, yes, that was the best investment that I made in myself, was listening to myself. Listening to what I want, what I need.
Mm-hmm.
Externally, the best investment that I made was definitely in coaching, getting
Wow.
coaches asking and paying for that wonderful advice, that wonderful mentorship, that wonderful opportunity to be able to bounce ideas off without judgment.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
when we ask our friends and our family, they have their spin on it. And it's a lot of judgment. Oh, you don't want to do that. You don't want to ruffle any feathers or anything like that. Yeah, you're going to need an outside perspective. Will you need to pay for that? Of course. Absolutely. It's part of development, but at least you get someone one-on-one, hopefully one-on-one, to be able to guide you, to be able to make those suggestions, to allow you to bounce off that idea, allow you to role play. Well, how are you going to ask for that raise? Are you going to be assertive? Are you going to sit down in that chair and be confident and state, this is what I've done for your company? Not, oh, well, the price of this has gone up and the price of this has gone up and the price of this has gone up, so therefore I need a raise. No, it's not about you. You have to make it about the company.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I actually spent a little bit of time with one of my team members, and I really hope Sam, my partner, isn't listening to this, because I'm just coaching her through exactly how to show her worth and ask for a raise, and be like, look back over the things that you've accomplished, and come with, hey, this is what I deserve. This is what I said, because if you don't ask, no one's going to give it to you. So I'm curious, Vanessa, did you quit then? Did you quit that day? That is scary.
Oh, no. But okay. I scaled back. Oh, big, huge difference from, I left with everybody else. I was in the elevator with everybody else. Good morning. I was in the elevator with everybody else. I came in when they came in and I left when they left.
Mm-hmm.
And what was really interesting was that it really wasn't noticed.
Really?
Yeah. Which led me to believe that they didn't even realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't even realize. Now, did we need to hire another person to kind of take on some work? Yeah, we did. And they just sort of they saw it as their growth. They're growing, so we need more people. They didn't recognize that somebody, me, was doing a lot of this extra work, and now that work wasn't being done. Oh, there's so much more work. We're growing and taking it on. So yes, another person had to be hired to take on that overflow. But it was so refreshing to me because it gave me an opportunity to actually focus on me.
That's so important. I think that as women, a lot of times in business and in these high-powered roles, we do give and give and give. It's somewhat in our nature, somewhat what we've been taught, somewhat advice that we've been given. And we give and give and give. And number one, I've noticed we don't toot our own horn, so to speak. So they probably don't even notice that we're doing these things. And number two, we wear ourselves out. So I think so important to, like you said, listen to that voice that says, you're headed for burnout. Don't do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so critical to listen to your intuition, to listen to your gut, and to listen to your cheerleader. Because we all have an inner critic. We do. We just have to tame her down when she gets a little loud. And sometimes we need to morph her into our biggest cheerleader and remind us who we actually are. Because yes, as women, especially in the workforce, we become everything to everyone. And not for nothing, our cape gets really dirty really fast because we want to prove that we are worthy of being where we are. And I had that as well. I was in the C-suite. I was the first non-family member in the C-suite. I took that role very seriously, and I wanted to hang on to it for as long as I can. And I wanted to prove that I'm worthy to be in that place. Well, years later, a mentor of mine said, well, I don't think they would have put you there had you not been worthy. And that was a very eye-opening statement for me. Yeah, it wasn't a trial run. It wasn't a situation where I was on probation and just, let's see how she does. No, I was appropriate. I was very appropriate and I was worthy, but I didn't see that.
Yeah. And sometimes that's the hardest thing is for us to see that we are enough. I was interviewing someone else and she's like, enough, you are enough. And I'm like, if we could just broadcast that message and internalize it throughout, you are enough. And so stop trying to prove that you're enough because you are. You're enough the way you are, what you're doing today. What about regrets? Do you have something that you look back on? And maybe it isn't a regret. Maybe it's just I would do this differently, but something that you look back on and go, oh my gosh, if I knew then what I know now, I would definitely have changed the way I dealt with that situation.
Yes, but it's a big situation for me, and I wish I'd handled it differently, but it was based on the way I grew up, the drilling into me that you respect your elders, that they have the wisdom that you need, regardless of who they are. And for a long time, I had a boss that was so critical of me and very passive aggressive. And I took it almost every single day. And I would come home in tears to my husband. I'm like, I can't seem to do anything right. She's just always on me and just critical comments. And really, she shut me down. She really shut me down. I got very quiet. I kept my head down, did my work, kept my head down, did my work. And she silenced me. She
Mm,
truly did. She wanted me to speak. So anybody. She always wanted me to speak, but then she was so critical of how I did things afterwards. We would have this whole 20-minute powwow afterwards where she would pretty much rip me to shreds. And
mhm,
it got to the point where I stopped doing any kind of presentations. I didn't want to do it because I didn't think I was good at it. What I didn't realize, and it took me a long time, it took me too long to realize it, was that it was her own insecurities that she was projecting on me.
mhm,
And I didn't see it. I didn't see it at all. I looked to her based on her position and who she was within the family and the fact that she was elder than me and all her degrees. She had so many acronyms behind her name. And I just looked to her as if she was my mentor.
mhm,
And everything she said to me, I took to heart and I took it in. And I did not realize that she was projecting her own insecurities onto me.
mhm,
And once I made that revelation and I stepped into who I was, yeah, it's been a drastic change. I
mhm,
love to speak. I love to write. I love to create all these things that were squashed for so long because I paid attention to the wrong person. And
mm,
that's my biggest regret is that I did that.
mhm,
However, sometimes our biggest regrets are our biggest lessons because it was a very powerful lesson to me, specifically, not to just listen to one person, that
yeah.
you actually need a circle around you. You need a circle of those that support you, that
Mhm,
encourage you, that speak so highly of you when you're not in the room.
yes.
And I only had one person, and this one person just beat
Yeah.
me down. And it was very eye-opening, a very hard lesson to learn. And now, in my position, I am able to advise people. I'm not the be all end all. I am
Mhm,
absolutely not. However, I have a lot of wisdom and I will share the wisdom with you, but you take what you can use and you toss the rest. If
mhm,
it doesn't feel right to you, if it makes you feel icky, and then don't do it.
yeah.
That's the bottom line. But yeah, so sometimes your biggest regret becomes your biggest lesson.
Yeah, I found that in my life as well, that sometimes those are learning experiences, not particularly the way I'd like to learn the lesson. Like, it would be so much nicer if someone could just tell me and I could internalize it in that way, but sometimes you just have to go through it to know. And I was going to ask, how did you, you were so young, how did you learn not to listen to that voice that was so critical? And you answered the question before I even asked it, and that's have a tribe, you know, have a couple of people so that you're not getting just one point of view. I think that goes too for like positive points of view. Like, you want people to tell you positive things, but you also want the people that can say, hey, this is a place you can work on, in that constructive feedback sort of way that helps you grow and get better.
And that the person that you're talking to wants you to grow and get better. They want to see the ride. They want to enjoy the ride. They want to be in the back seat as you're going 55 miles on the highway. For me, I have a fast car, so I tend to go probably closer to 85. You need to wear a seatbelt when you're in my journey. But with that being said, you want those around you that just elevate you and that just give you that boost. And at the same time, let you know when, hey, you might want to consider doing this just a little different.
Mhm.
Here's the experience that I had. Let's try it. Let's see it. How does it feel for you? So forth and so on. That they have your best interest at heart, not their own best interest. And that's really hard in a work setting because we spend a lot of time at work with colleagues. Sometimes we spend more time with them than we do with our own families. And sometimes we can get a little comfortable, and we still need to recognize that we are in a professional setting. So you want to be careful with the, for lack of better word, the bitching.
Oh, yeah.
Because you never know who you're talking to, who's over listening, who's over listening, overhearing. Boy, I'm all tongue tied. You know that I'm not AI because I'm all tongue tied. But yes, you don't know who's overhearing the conversation, and you don't know the advice that you're getting from a colleague, whether it's in your best interest or in their best interest. So you want to be careful with that. So as I said, and as you have so eloquently put as well, you do need a tribe. You need a tribe around you, and that tribe ebbs and flows. People come in, people come out, people come back in, so forth and so on. And you want to do the same for them. So you want to make sure that your tribe is filled with people that you're going to do the same thing for, that you're going to elevate, that you're going to remind them of certain situations and certain things to elevate them for their best interest, not your own best interest.
I think that's really important for leaders to remember. It's one of the premises of our team here. I always say, I don't care about, I'll use Sky the employee. I care about Sky the person, and I want Sky's life to be great and go forward. And I am praying and hoping and wishing and doing everything I can to make sure that's here with Fidelis. But if it's not, you are the most important part of this whole equation. And you're right, that doesn't, in general, that really isn't a part of the professional world. And I think it's important to take that responsibility and know that you are the driver of your own future. I love that. Vanessa, what about if you could go back and you could talk to your 20-year-old self, or somewhere very early on in this journey? Is there a message you'd have for her or you when you were younger?
Oh, absolutely. And it's the one I live by now. And I'm like, this is such a great motto for me. And I stepped into it and I was like, why haven't I had this my whole life? Because this is it. This is the powerful stepping into it. So here goes. Are you ready for it?
Yes, I'm excited.
Live your life by your own design, with purpose, on purpose. That's it.
Well, that's powerful though. That's not just it. I was speaking with someone else and she called it a life by design. And I think that, as we've talked and we've talked about different situations in your life, and I've thought about different situations in my life, a lot of times you just fall into those situations. And like you said, you would have kept doing that job. If he had said yes to that raise, you would still be there,
Exactly.
you know? And that's not a life designed. That's a life fallen into or taken or lived, right?
Absolutely. Extremely well said. Yes, absolutely. And I see the reverse ripple effect of that. Again, had I gotten that raise, I wouldn't necessarily have developed my own company. And if I didn't develop my own company, I wouldn't be reaching the masses to let them know that they're not alone as they go through betrayal. I wouldn't have written my books that sit on a shelf. Not, I don't want my book in the self-help section. I want my book in the let me help you section, because
Mhm.
that's what it is. Let me help you. Because yes, I know what it feels like to lay on that bedroom floor in that ugly crying position where the tears and the snot are all just mixed up because you're in so much pain. And I wouldn't have had the opportunities to be able to speak on stage, to hit that one person that needed to hear what I needed to say so that they could feel better. None of that, all those ripples wouldn't have happened had he given me that raise. And I
Mhm.
think about that often, the reverse ripple effect, like going backwards in a film. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that he said that to me, because the trajectory of my life completely changed. Just as when my husband said those 3 words to me, I've met someone. The trajectory of my life changed then too. And it's been a great ride. It absolutely has been. Yes, it was very painful right at that moment. But beyond that, there's such beauty on the other side. And I'm so grateful for where I am right at this moment.
I think that's important to remember too when you're going through those moments, because when you're in the middle of that, it does not feel like you're going to be grateful ever for that experience. And as these young women, it's true in life and it's true in professional life as well. And it's hard separating the two sometimes, so going through those devastating pieces, um, if you can lift your head up just high enough, just long enough to say, what does future me learn from this situation? And how do I learn that quickly so I can get over it?
Absolutely. Oh, we could absolutely take a pill and just fast forward. So many of us that when we're in so much pain, all we want to do is be Rip Van Winkle. We want to sleep for years and wake up and have everything be okay.
Mhm. What scared you the most when you started your journey? When you started your career, what were you scared of? And are you still scared of that today?
Mm. I was really scared of letting people down. I was really scared of letting people down. I was scared of letting my family down, especially my grandparents that immigrated to this country from Germany after the war, that I would let them down, that they wouldn't be proud of me
Mm.
for whatever capacity that I was in. I was worried about letting my work colleagues down, that if I didn't pull my weight or I didn't do more than them, that I was letting them down in some respects. My friends, I was just perpetually always worried about letting people down. That's completely different now. It's completely different now because I'm confident in my own skill set that
Mhm.
I, as long as I don't let myself down, I'm okay. I'm
Mhm.
okay. I'm not as concerned with other people's expectations of me. I have shed all those layers of expectation from others. The only person's expectation that I care about is my own.
Mhm.
That's absolutely it. And again, you have to wade through 40 yards of crap to get to the other side, like in Shawshank Redemption, and get through and get to the other side and just See that beach, see that boat, see that glorious, have the sun kiss your skin, and know that you made it through.
I think it's important that you talked about your own expectations of yourself, and you have to be kind to yourself too. Like, my expectations of myself can sometimes get overwhelming because I actually expect way more than other people do out of me. And I think that you have to maybe see how far you've come or look at what you've done and make sure that you're not your harshest critic in that expectation piece.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I guess for me, it's because I plan. I plan. I have a week plan, I have a month plan, I have a year plan, I have a 3-year plan, and a 5-year plan. And that's it. And if I get everything done for the week plan by Wednesday, then my Thursday and Friday are free. They just are. Then that becomes a non negotiable for ding, 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 self care. And whatever self care it is, I know that self care sometimes gets a really bad rap, but my self care is I love to get wrapped up in a book. I do, just like you, reader. I love to get wrapped up in a book. And I have stacks of books, and I'll pick one up and I'll sit in a chair and I'll just get lost in it. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's not that I take on more. My expectation is to properly plan. And if the example that I used, I get everything done by Wednesday, great. But let's say, for example, that I don't get things done. Well, it gets added to the following week and everything else gets pushed.
Mm.
And it just does. I've made that acceptance for myself.
Mhm.
And it allows me to properly plan for the following week, knowing how long things are actually going to take. And for me, I built into my schedule pockets of time for stillness, for nothing. Nothing's on my calendar at that moment. So if something runs over, I'm okay. And if nothing runs over, I suddenly have 20 minutes to myself. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with those 20 minutes?
I love that idea of building in stillness time. I think that is amazing because there is a sense of like creativity and centeredness and kind of just thinking. Like that's how I come up with some of my best ideas is when I'm not day to day trying to get through my to task list, but I have time just to sit and think and be. So I like that idea of stillness time. I'm not good at it though, Vanessa. You probably will have to tell me how to do that.
Do you want a technique?
Yes, yes. Oh, yes.
Sometimes our best ideas are in the shower because
Okay.
we don't have any distractions. We have no distractions. We are focused on that water, on that soap, on that shampoo, and it allows our mind to wander.
Mhm.
And we just need to get into the shower and go, okay, I'm not going to think about my to-do list. I'm just going to breathe and I'm just going to let the thoughts come in and out. And some of our best ideas are in the shower because we give our brain an opportunity to rest.
Mhm.
That's why sometimes our best ideas are right the moment before we fall asleep. And what does it do? It jolts us awake and we're like, ooh, that's a really good idea. And then our brain just starts going from there.
Yeah. That's so funny because the idea for this podcast actually came in the shower. I was trying to figure out how I could help my team grow in their career and what help and advice and mentorship I could give them. And I was like, I don't know. Well, I could tell them, but I wonder if other people would be willing to share their stories. So I think that's hilarious that you said shower moment because that's actually it's the only time I joke, it's the only time I slow down long enough to be open to thinking.
So you already knew it. You just needed to be reminded of it. And sometimes that's all we need. We need to be reminded of what we already know.
Mhm. What about unique challenges because you were a woman? Did you face any of those through your career journey?
Yes, absolutely. It was challenging to be the only female in a group. Yeah, the good old boys club. Again, I'm dating myself back in the 80s. Kind of customary for the men on Friday night, normally a drink at a bar, okay, one thing, but every once in a while they go to a strip club. that wasn't my thing. I wasn't going to go do that. I know that there are some powerful women that will, no problem. They'll go just to be one of the guys. No, that's not me. So I was left out of a lot of things. And a lot of times I felt that that was purposely done because then I wasn't there. And yeah, kind of chattiness, the type of good old boys club. Yeah, that was kind of hard. The other thing was the cattiness of some women.
Mm-hmm.
And that also was a very powerful lesson to me, not to be that way, to lift other women up.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, and this is such a good example, when I was in a leadership role, we had a discussion about one employee that was arriving to work late, consistently late. And my colleague wanted to have the conversation with her. And he did. She left the office in tears. I then asked her to come into my office, and I sat her down and I said, I know that Jim has had a conversation with you. I said, I'm going to have the same conversation with you, but it's going to be a little different. We've noticed that you've been arriving to work late. Is there something going on that we can help you with that would facilitate you being able to get to work on time? And she looked up from her tears and said, thank you so much for asking me. I'm having a hard time because my child's school bus picks up at a different time now. And now I have to race and I'm stuck behind the bus and I'm so stressed out. And by the time I get here, I have to park a half a mile away because all the parking spots are already taken and whatnot. And I race to get here. What if we change your arrival time by a half hour and then tack it on at the end? So come in a half hour later, which would now be your standard time, and then you would stay. So now your hours shift from the 9 a.m. to 9:30. And then at the end of the day, instead of 5, it would be 5:30. How would that work for you? Oh, God, that would be great. That would be great. I said, okay, consider it done. She was on time every single day from that day forward. Why? Because I treated her like a human. I asked her what's going on in her life.
Yeah.
I didn't come down on her and say, listen, if you're late again, you're going to get fired. Can't talk to people that way. You have to have a little bit of empathy and you have to know what's going on in their life and come up with a solution to that. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent. I love that idea. We're pretty flexible around here because I want my employees, I want my team to have the experiences that that I got to enjoy of raising kids and being at their softball games and their soccer games and stuff like that. And this is life. Your work, you are working, but you need to make sure and take care of your life as well. I love the Vanessa that you had the insight to kind of look and say, what is going on that I can help? How can I help? What, Vanessa, is the thing that you're most proud of?
I am most proud of my fierceness. I know it's not, it's cliche, my family, my husband, my kids, so forth and so on. Yes, those are all standard. It's my fierceness that I am most proud of. And it took a long time for that to emerge. And now that it's here, I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's not arrogance or anything of that nature. I love the fierceness. I love the confidence. And again, the confidence isn't arrogance, it's confidence. I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Mm-hmm.
It took a long time to get me here. It took a long time and it took a lot of, but here I am. And as I said before, I love who I am. So it's definitely my fierceness, my ability, my resilience, that when I was broken and shattered, I picked myself up. And now, right at this moment, what I'm most proud of is what I do, that I actually get to help others. And throughout my whole career, I've always helped others professionally and personally, without a doubt. I was always the one. I was like Lucy from the Peanuts, who had, advice, 2 cents type of thing. And, she would sit there with Charlie Brown and listen to his problems and whatnot. That was me. And I didn't realize that that was actually my gift. that my gift was my empathy, my ability to see patterns, to see things, to offer tried and true, lived through advice.
Mhm.
And now I get to do that. And I love it. I love chatting. Absolutely. Because I want everyone, male or female, but definitely females, to know that the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
And I recently discovered my high school yearbook. And in my high school yearbook, we got to write a quote. And everybody was quoting, famous people and whatnot. I didn't quote anybody. My quote was, the possibilities. I was 18 years old when I wrote that. And I look at it now and I'm like, yes, absolutely. But from that point to this point, there was so much in between. Absolutely. But I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for where I am right at this moment. And it is because of those that lifted me up, when I was down, that guided me in such a way and showed me who I was, who I am, and supported me through it because I developed that circle around me. Because in isolation, we really can't do anything. It doesn't work that way. We need that tribe. We need that collective wisdom around us.
Mm, I love it. Yeah, I think I agree. I think that you need your tribe, and you find them, and you find those women and men that kind of lift you and help you grow and turn you into who you were always meant to become. I love that. Any advice for a young woman who's just starting down this journey? You're already successful, you're already kind of at the end, and you've become. What about those that are at the beginning and they're just becoming? What advice do you have for her? So to make her be able to succeed like you?
It's absolutely the mentorship. I can't stress it enough. The mentorship. Align with people that you respect, in some respects that you want to be like, that you see them and they're willing, because that's another thing. You can find somebody that you're like, wow, I'd really like to learn from them. And they're not willing to teach you for whatever, a variety of reasons, whatever those are. But you want to find those that just want to share and want to see you succeed. It's so exhilarating to have that. And regrettably for me, I didn't get that until much later in life. And so now my daughter, I'm all over her. And she takes the suggestions and she has her own group around her. And every once in a while, one of them will approach me and ask me a question. And I love it. I absolutely love it because I'm willing to give any type of information because I want to see that success.
Mm.
We as women, especially as women, we're at the pinnacle. We're at such a pinnacle moment in time to be able to make lasting change. We just need the courage to step into who we were meant to be and do it. Just do it. I hate to take the Nike slogan, but yes, just do it.
Yeah.
And if you stumble, that's okay because your people around you will pick you up. They will, because they don't want to see you fail.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. I think that as women, I've found so much support and growth and encouragement in all of those spaces, the coaching spaces and the peer mentor spaces and things like that. And I think that I've seen women like you who are willing, and not only willing, but actively engaged in growing the next generation and those around us of our own generation who want to just help. And I love that there are so many of us out there. There's a whole tribe, and I love that. So thank you, Vanessa, so much for spending some time with me and just going through your story and sharing your experience. It's meant a lot. If I have listeners that want to get in touch with you and ask questions, how do they do that?
Oh, beautiful question. I love it. Well, you can definitely find me, my beautiful website that I am also ridiculously proud of because I built it from scratch. Yes, I did it all on my own. So I'm curious for your audience to take a look at it and let me know what they think of it, first of all. But if you want to reach out to me, and I encourage you to do so, it's understandingear.com.
Perfect.
And can I share where it came from?
Yeah.
I'm a very big Stephen King fan. As you heard, I mentioned Shawshank Redemption. There's lots of other books from him that I enjoy. As we talked about getting curled up in those moments of silence and reading a good book, it's usually a Stephen King book as well. But he did a book a long time ago called Different Seasons. It was a short story book. And in it, one of the stories starts with a quote. And I've condensed it. The most important things to say are the hardest things to say, locked within, not for the want of a teller, but for the want of an understanding ear.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for sharing. And I appreciate it.
My honor. Thank you so much for having me.